Axis Mundi, the world tree, connects the many layers, worlds, and facets of our universe. The lower world of watery roots provides access points to deep self-knowledge and the realms of those who have come before us. The midworld of earth and form holds humanity and all physical things, a bridge where connections emerge. And the upper world, billowing in its airy canopy, expands with spirit and the magic of source. Traveling these roads of the Axis Mundi is you, a fiery spark of conscious life. Through this podcast, we meet beyond time and space to explore the information found along the vast arterial pathways of the universal Axis Mundi. In each episode, follow your unique compass through this journey of self-knowledge, taking what resonates and leaving the rest. My name is Meg Bartlett, and this is the Axis Channel. Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of the Axis Channel. My name is Meg Bartlett. I'm an experienced dream and nightmare interpreter, oracle, writer, podcaster, a whole bunch of things. We'll go with those for today. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the podcast. I share meaningful stories here from my life from across the Axis Mundi, which is the concept of the world tree, experiencing everything across the physical, some of the ancestral realms, things also beyond this reality, what we can see. But I believe that all of these things create the full human experience. Today, we're going to be talking about healing, and this is coming from a recent conversation that I had with a friend where we were both talking about the PTSD that each of us has respectively in our own ways and how we're kind of working through that right now. And it feels pertinent for me to bring this up. These are going to be some of my own personal views on what healing is. It can be a charged word for some people. It can be an overused word, but I feel like I have an important message to share about this today. And at the end, I'm going to share a dream that I recently had where I have been starting to recall some of the dream work that I do. So I am a dream interpreter. I'm also a dream worker. And my life is made whole by experiencing the dream space. So this is one of my personal passions. But for a long time, I have been aware that I have a dream job. So even though, in this physical waking reality, I interact with my everyday, I have the work that I do in my everyday waking life, and I go about things pretty normally. And then when I fall asleep, I know that I have a dream job. But for the longest time, I've been okay not knowing what that job is. It's very difficult for me. It has been, I should correct myself. It has been very difficult for me to recall what work I am doing in the dream space. And in the dream space, my soul, my spirit is really the part of me that is engaging in that work. It's taking the downtime that my physical body needs to rest and recharge and process all of the experiences from the days and weeks before. And it's taking that time to go and do other things in other capacities. And I've been okay not knowing that, but I have started bringing back some of that information. I think there's a purpose to it, but I want to share some of these experiences with you because I'm doing some crazy ass shit. So we'll talk about that at the end. Stay tuned. But let's just dive right into healing. So I had a friend reach out to me recently, and she had come across something online that triggered an intense PTSD response from her. Somebody was talking about an experience that she had had. I don't think she had a whole lot of warning, and she went into the PTSD spiral. And I know what that feels like because I also have PTSD in many different aspects. We're not going to get necessarily into the deep specifics of that in this podcast, but we are going to talk about the aspects of healing and over time. What does that mean? How to go about that, and just what I think about it, I guess. So what is healing? Healing to me is choosing to move forward in a new way while acknowledging and taking into account the experiences that you have had. All of your experiences are valid. Everything that you have experienced has happened to you, and it's not anything to shove down or suppress or write off or pretend didn't happen, even the really horrible, awful things. At some point, I believe that you are the only person that can heal yourself. There are wonderful people out there, healers in this world, in both the spiritual realm, in the physical realm, and in the psychological realm, right? Doctors, they help us physically heal from things. But if you get in a car accident and a doctor saves you, let's just say you could have lost your legs, but the doctor saves those legs, that's great. He can heal you in that aspect, but it's up to you to carry through with that healing. It's up to you to attend your physical therapy. It's up to you to put in the effort to try and walk again. Whether or not you will be able to is yet to be seen, but it's up to you to put in the effort to attempt to do so. In the psychological realm, if you have suffered, if there is, if you have any of those signs, like mental health in general, right? We all know what mental health is at this point. We all know what depression and anxiety are. There are a whole bunch of other things as well that you can come across, different disorders, different ways of being, different narratives that we embody as people. All of these things limit us. If you get to a point where you're saying, okay, something isn't quite right in my life, something feels really dissonant, I'm suffering in some way, or anything that just says, I might need a little help getting through this, psychological therapy can be a great resource. However, it's up to you to heal yourself through this process as well. Your psychological therapist can help guide you through this. They can help open up some of these things. They can give you tools to process the experiences that you have had. They can give you tools to help you in the moments coming forward, but it's up to you to do the work, and it's up to you to be honest with your therapist about what you really have experienced and what really is the root of the problem. They can only help you as much as you share, right? And when it comes to spiritual work as well, you are the sovereign divine being that resides within your body. This is your existence. And while I believe that there are a great many spiritual and energetic healers out there, I also believe that it's up to you to do the work. So for me, I have a Reiki therapist that I go to see probably about once a year. Sometimes it's a little longer than that. And I'm going to share just a brief story with you on that. So I think it was the second or third session that I had gone to. We finish up. I'm feeling great. I feel really clear. I feel like there were some blockages that I had been struggling to release that had finally worked themselves out. And I get in the car and I'm all peaceful and I feel really great. And I'm driving home and somebody cuts me off and I roll down the window and stick my middle finger out and yell at them because I want to make sure that they see that they know that they fucked up. And then I just, like in that moment, I realized what I'm doing. I just came from a Reiki session and I'm already yelling at people and flipping them off. And I was like, oh, well, this is probably something for me to work on. so that's just a very simple example. But any of the energy work that you do, yes, these people can help you move some blockages around. But you, at the end of the day, have to do your own work. You have to follow through with it. If you want to live a peaceful, calm life, you have to be the peaceful, calm person. There's only so much that you can change in the world around you, but you have the infinite potential to change what is within you. Changing your perception, changing your inner narrative, even just seeking out physical changes to support your life in a better way, that is healing to me. You are your own greatest healer. You are your own greatest catalyst for change. And at the end of the day, healing is choosing to change. It's choosing to find a new way forward based on the experiences that you have lived through. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to heal, some of the basic concepts or steps, I guess you could say, that I work through. None of this is a linear process, by the way. All of these things are intermingled with each other, but there's a few different concepts that I think make a lot of sense. And then I'm going to share with you one of the stories that I have that I shared with my friend about PTSD and what my healing actually looks like. Because to some people, they would say, I'm not healed, but I consider myself to be healed. And this is what healing looks like for me. So first off the bat, how to heal. I believe that the first step is to acknowledge that healing needs to exist in the first place. So if you have been experiencing something, for me, this looks like we're going to be talking about my military PTSD in this example. So I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2015, and thankfully I never saw like intense combat. However, we took mortar fire almost every other night on the base, and I did a couple special missions that were really intense in other ways. So, and we'll just leave it at that. But mostly this is talking about the aspect of mortar fire. So when I was overseas and people, were sending rockets and mortars over onto the base and everybody had to take cover, you had to find shelter, and then you just had to sit through it while they went ahead and cleared it, made sure that everything was fine, and then they would release you. However, my body in that time frame developed a PTSD response, which says, okay, I hear this noise And this means that my life is in danger. I am going to really quickly fill my body with adrenaline, and I'm going to make sure that I run to the nearest cover, right? So that I can save myself and get out of harm's way. This has remained embedded in my body. My body remembers this. And whenever I hear anything that sounds remotely like mortar fire, I enter this response. My body fills with adrenaline, and I immediately am trying to assess the threat, move out of the situation, and resolve it. And this is just a fact of my life. But it took me a while to acknowledge that this was something. So, 4th of July is coming up. I think today is the day after solstice. Today is June 21st. Happy solstice, everyone. We are coming up on the 4th of July. This is in the United States, our Independence Day, and a lot of Americans celebrate with fireworks. There are, city organized or government organized fireworks displays. And then there are people in their backyard that shoot off fireworks at any random time of the day or night. So this is an interesting time for me, because fireworks to me sound like mortar fire. For the longest time, when I came back after my deployment, I tried to go to fireworks shows or just ignore that any of this was happening. And I would lock myself inside my body during these events. I was shaking uncontrollably. I was really embarrassed. I would have to hide, or feel like I needed to hide somewhere. And it was just really, really not good. But I was trying to force myself through these instances instead of just accepting that they existed and making my life easier, to handle. So I refuse to acknowledge it. So first of all, you need to acknowledge that something isn't quite right in the first place. So for me, that looked like, okay, I have had this experience. I was overseas. I experienced mortar fire, and now there are fireworks and it sounds like that. I'm going to acknowledge that, hey, maybe attending a fireworks show is not a good thing for me. Maybe that's just not helpful for me anymore. And that's a fact of my reality. I can't necessarily drown out all of the fireworks. So, when my neighbors are shooting shit off, then that's just, I have found other ways to deal with that. And we'll get to that in a second. But acknowledging that I am going to hold space for myself instead of just pushing through has been the key. So that's the first piece that I see it as healing, is acknowledging that you need to heal in the first place, that there is something to heal. Next, it's acceptance. Okay, I acknowledge that I've had this experience. Now I need to accept where I am at. And this is a hard one for a lot of people. This was very hard for me as well. For the longest time, I just wanted to believe that I could push through and it would be fine, or that I would someday be able to go to fireworks, like fireworks shows, and I would be fine. And I just kept trying to push through. But eventually I just said, you know what? I'm just going to accept where I'm at, change the things that I can, and let go of the things that I can't. I'm just going to help myself through this situation. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I don't need to behave a certain way to anybody. I don't need to be embarrassed about this. I served my country. I should not have to be embarrassed that I have a response to that, that was an experience of my life and that I have taken things away from that experience. So acceptance, accept where you're at. It's okay. And now we lead ourselves into change. Change is the third step as I see it. So once I have acknowledged that something isn't quite right, something needs healing, now I accept that, okay, this is my reality. And then I say, I'm going to change. I am going to enact change. I'm going to seek out change. I'm going to help myself. Something needs to change. I can't keep going the same way that I have been going this whole time. So my experience, my friend was asking me, she had this PTSD response, and she said, do you still have that? Because I have been working on my PTSD response for, I don't know, almost a decade. It's been quite a hot minute. And I'm still working on it, right? So making that clear. But I said, yeah, absolutely. I am still experiencing it, and it's a fact of life. So there are ways that I can prevent it from happening. And there are times where I can't prevent it. But then I have developed a system for myself to help myself through those moments. And this is just over time, I've come to know this. First, we're going to talk about what I do when I can't necessarily prevent it from happening. So the most recent example that I have of this, I was with my mother-in-law and her friend back in December. and we had gone to some sort of like a local craft fair, art show sort of shindig. Well, when we got there, I was not really paying attention. I was totally chill, totally relaxed, totally interested in all of the wonderful things that were on display. We were having a great time. I did not see that there was a balloon arch in the building, and these were like big balloons. Well, right as we were, probably not right as we were about to leave, but coming near the end, we were starting to wrap up. One of the balloons popped, and it was extremely loud, and it shook me out of the calm that I had been in, because my body said, oh, I know what that is. That's mortar fire. And when mortar fire happens, this is what we do. I also, for a split second, was like, wait a minute, what if it's not mortar fire? Oh, if it's not mortar fire, then it's an active shooter, because this is the military experience that I had been trained to answer. I had been trained to answer these situations and these sounds, these noises. So within a split second, my mind goes through, this is an active shooter. I'm going to push my mother-in-law under the table and climb in after her. The door behind us is locked, so that's why we are climbing under the table. When the shooter comes in front of me, I am going to reach up, try and disarm this individual. I'm going to clear the chamber. I'm going to empty the magazine. I am going to completely deconstruct the weapon to the best of my ability. And I'm going to, I walked myself through the whole scenario in a split second, until I realized, wait a minute, I'm at an art show. That was a balloon. I'm shaking uncontrollably. There's tears leaking out of my eyes. This is my body reacting. I am not okay. So I walk out of there. My family knows this about me as well, so they're also very supportive. I've made sure to tell them this, okay? This is also part of my plan, is just when this happens, I need support and I need some help, and it helps that people know about it. So for me, I walk outside. They immediately can sense, oh, this is what is happening. They come out with me. I say, hey, can I just have some time to myself? Can I have the keys to the car? I'm going to go sit in the car for a bit. You guys can finish up in there. I'm going to walk through the set of tools that I have to help me through this, and I'm going to attempt to calm down and get myself out of this, but I would like to be alone. They said, absolutely, we are here to support you. Gave me the keys to the car. I go ahead and sit in the front passenger seat. I call my husband, because that's one of the things that we have in place when this happens. He just talks to me about anything. I don't really care what it is that he talks to me about. Sometimes he talks to me about Star Wars. Sometimes we talk about Lord of the Rings. Sometimes we talk about other nerdy ass shit. He just really talks to me about what's on his mind. And I say, cool, I'm listening. And while he's talking to me, I usually play like a phone game, like a Sudoku or a crossword or something that's engaging my brain. And I try to breathe deeply as well. But just hearing other people, bringing myself back to, this is my reality now. I am not in Afghanistan. I am here in the United States. I am, or wherever it is that I am, right? I am safe. I am okay. And then I carry on with my day. This is a fact of my life. And this I consider to be healing. I believe that I have healed myself. Healing is a lifelong process. For me, this looks like I have done everything that I can to set myself up for success whenever my body experiences these moments. This is an experience that I had in my life. Afghanistan is an experience for me, and it is a valid experience. And I'm not going to shove it down and pretend that it didn't happen, because I don't need to do that. At the end of the day, I am just trying to live my best life. And this is the way that I can do that. I can't change the past, and I will never be able to go back. I don't think there's ever going to be a point in time in the future where I will hear a firework and not think of mortar fire. That's just a fact of my reality. And I have accepted that. So I have also stepped into change. What can I change? I can change the fact that I had been hiding it for my life. So now I tell, my family knows, most of my friends know. And they're there to support me in that moment. I would not surround myself with people who do not support me. I also engage with the tools that I have learned. So I found what works for me through trial and error. I have a good system in place. I can usually calm myself down within 10 to 15 minutes after an event. It used to take me hours, but now I've, drastically changed that. So it does get better in time. All of this, I believe, is healing. And I believe that I have healed myself to the best of my ability. This is a fact of my life, and I'm comfortable with it at this point. Now, what I do to prevent situations that I can see coming. So 4th of July, I know that this is a time of the year where people shoot off fireworks. Just knowing that and acknowledging it, hey, I'm probably going to have some sort of a PTSD response if I allow myself in that situation, or if I hear those things going off in my neighborhood. That just helps right off the bat. So acknowledgement is still a facet here that is helping me to actively heal in a continuous way. So what that looks like for me is I get my handy dandy big honkin' headphones out, like really intense set of headphones. I download a new game on the Nintendo Switch, and whenever something goes off in our neighborhood, I go downstairs, put my headphones on, and I immediately engage myself in some sort of an activity or a game that uses a lot of my brain power, something to really ground me in the moment, something to really pull me out of that place in the past and put me here in the present. For our family gatherings, I used to kind of avoid them, and that's what I needed at the time, and that's okay. Today, however, our larger family as well knows this about me. They have a 4th of July celebration every year. My husband and I always attend, and we usually leave around 4:30, 5 o'clock whenever it starts getting towards that mealtime, dinner time, and people start testing out their fireworks. It's not dark, but people like to try them out anyways. So once that starts happening, I'll usually be the judge of like, okay, have we heard some, little ones go off? Have we heard some big ones go off? And I determine when we're going to leave. My husband married me knowing this. And even if this was something that had happened afterwards, right, we are in partnership together. And he understands that part of being in partnership with me is we do not stay late on the 4th of July. I need him to be there with me. Just having another human to be present in our home to help me ground in that moment, that's what I need. And he accepts that. He acknowledges that. We both do. And that's how we live our life. So he doesn't really get to go see the fireworks shows. He doesn't have the experience that I do. So he would probably still enjoy them, but he's okay missing out because at the end of the day, we're in partnership together. And this is what one person in that partnership needs. All of this to say, this is how I have healed. And even though I still have that response, I would say that I am living a healed life. So healing does not have to look like you are completely reverting back to the old you or completely okay in a situation that used to trigger you. I believe that these experiences, they always stay with us and they always will. And that's okay. We are all about change in the human experience, and learning how to move through those changes with grace and accept that you can change aspects of your life to help yourself through those moments, to help you better support you. That is healing. That's important to acknowledge. And that is what I have to say about healing. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. We're going to talk about my dream in this next section, but if you have any questions, comments, or anything else, feel free to send me an email. You can go ahead to my website, go to my contact form, let me know if this was helpful for you, impactful for you. Also, I have a weekly newsletter if you want to get on that as well. That's been really fun for me. I've been really consistent with that since April. And we talk about a whole bunch of different things in my weekly newsletter. It's totally free. You can go ahead and sign up either on my website, or I think I'll put a link in the show description below. All right, so we have talked about healing, and a good transition into my dream would be to say that as I have healed myself throughout my life, so not just from the PTSD I experienced overseas, but also from some of my childhood traumas, I used to have a lot of nightmares and they were all consuming. However, acknowledgement, acceptance, and change have all empowered me to heal not only my life and myself, but they have healed my nightmares as well. And so now I have found myself in a space where I have expansive, wild, fascinating dreams. And this just brings so much beauty and love and just amazingness into my life. Like I love dreams so much. I love to explore. And I have a lot of really great dreams, even the psychological ones, right? Like I love diving in and, picking apart my own dreams. I love experiencing all of these different things. I love learning in the dream space. I learn so much about not only myself, but, different types of magic, different types of energy, different types of concepts that come through to me in the dream space, brought to me by individuals, or I go seek them out. And at the same time, I know that I also have a dream job. I have known this for a while. And it's actually a question that I get quite often when I'm hosted on another person's podcast, or if people are just stopping by my table at a fair. People usually ask me, what do you do for your dream job? Which is not just, in this waking physical world. It's a job that I actually have within the dream space that my soul enacts. Like I said before, for the longest time, I was okay not knowing the specifics of my dream job. I was okay just trusting, hey, my soul goes off and does this stuff, and I know that I'm doing good work. Maybe it would be too distracting. Maybe there's a purpose for me not remembering. I'm okay with that. I trust myself. I know I'm doing something important, or something at least that's just meaningful to me and my spirit and my soul. But over the last several months, probably even into last year, I have been receiving pieces of this dream work over and over again. So in an overarching sense, I believe that I am some sort of a warrior, some sort of a defender, some sort of, I don't even know the exact term for it, but I am out there being active in the dream space. And I usually find myself in contests of will. So instead of fighting, like we would here on Earth with weapons or tools or with other objects, I fight with my will. And it's not fighting in the sense of I'm trying to create conflict. I'm trying to resolve it. And in the dream space, there's some aspect of my soul that is in a contest of will with things that I do not feel are beneficial to life on Earth or to humanity. And so I get into a contest of will. I kind of go through some battles. I battle some dark things in the dream space. And it's fascinating to me. I do not consider these nightmares because I wake up feeling empowered. And the feeling that I have when I wake up is the indicator. And that should be the indicator for you as well. If you wake up and you feel like, oh my God, was that a nightmare? It probably is. If you wake up and you were like, that was a disturbing dream, but I'm not feeling really upset, then it's more of a psychological instance, and you might be able to pick that one apart in a psychological way. So the dream that I had most recently, I want to just share with you because this might give you a good visual for a meditation or a dream space. This might spark something within you. Let me know if you have any dreams based on this as well. After you listen to this episode, I would be absolutely fascinated to listen to them. So actually, I'm going to reverse just a little bit. I'm going to tell you an overarching concept that I've been experiencing is an increase in dream lucidity. Now, historically, lucid dreaming has been difficult for me to attain. I attribute that to my PTSD and to the amount of nightmares that I've had in my life. And that lucidity is just difficult for me to access because of all of these other experiences. However, it's really opening up for me. When I am lucid, though, when I have a lucid dream, before I end up in a space of lucidity, I usually come into the awareness that I am being sucked through a tube. So I can literally feel my astral body being sucked through a tube. I never see it in these instances, but I know that I'm traveling through the tube system. That's the verbiage that comes to me. You might know it by a different name. In my lucid experiences, I'm always traveling horizontally, and I'm usually traveling through the top of my head. So I'll pull out from my feet to my head and travel that way. But if I'm lying down, I'm horizontal, right? So the tube system is something that I have encountered before. However, in this dream that I had within the last week, I found myself in the tube system vertically, and I could see it for the first time. And let me tell you, this was monumental to me. This was, I could feel the gravity in this dream. I could feel the impact. I know that I was seeing the light tube system. So let me try to describe this for you. I found myself with the awareness in a canister, kind of like, like a big metal barrel, but it was open on either end, and there were canisters stacked on top of each other and stacked below. There were also canisters that were almost like attachments that were leading horizontally out from this tube system. So there's several different sort of visualizations that I can bring to you here. The first one is that this is kind of like the ISS, the International Space Station. So it's a long cylindrical tube, and then they have different modules that are spreading out from the sides of it, from maybe horizontally or just, perpendicular. And you could say that it looks like that, except it's like except it's massive. It's vast. It's huge. It goes on forever. It's in this lattice matrix grid type of, just woven intricacy. The other visual that I have for it is if you are driving up to the bank and you are depositing a check in the ye old way and they send it through the tube, right? And you put the check in the tube and then it sucks it back in. You could also see it like that, right? Like the canister portion of that is a good visualization. A friend of mine that I was telling this to recently also said it's almost like the Mario video game. Like if you're going down into the pipes, you can also use that one as well. But it was absolutely fascinating. So I find myself in this canister system and I can see above me and below me. I can see things moving out to the side, and there are little gaps in between the sections of the canisters. So I can see out into the ether, I would call it. But to me, it didn't look like outer space. There were no stars. It wasn't black. It was indescribable. And I truly mean that. I have tried for the last week to find words to describe what the space in between the tube system looks like. I literally cannot find them because I have nothing to compare it to. I do not know how to describe it, but it's not space. The word that comes to mind is dark matter. So dark matter physicists currently believe that dark matter is the, it's most of our universe is made up of dark matter, but we don't actually know what that is. So to me, this is like, oh, that's dark matter. So is just what my brain says. This tube system, though, was absolutely fascinating. So I'm just sitting in it, gaining an awareness. I have an element of lucidity. I'm starting to look up and look down consciously and with intention. And I'm starting to say, okay, where do I want to go? I feel like I have this deep sense of knowing that I can use this to travel anywhere in the known universe. And this is the light tube system. That's just the verbiage that I have for it. And as I'm thinking through this, all of a sudden, shoom, there's this huge packet of light that passes in front of me through the middle of the tube. And I'm kind of backed up against the side of it, the side of this canister. And then there's more packets of light, shoom, shoom. And they're going every which way. They're going up, they're going down, they're going across. And then there's light beings. It's not just packets of light as in they contain information and thoughts and concepts and energies. There are whole beings encased in light that are traveling through this light tube system. And they're passing by and I can see bits of their faces, or I can see bits of their energy, or I can just feel who they are. I don't even think I really have a body in this aspect. So I would say that the faces that I saw, I probably recognize those individuals, and that's what I'm using to associate the concept of them with. But it was so fascinating. It was so fascinating. So though this was at the beginning of my dream. So at the beginning of my dream, I don't quite have a good grasp of the lucidity. I'm trying to still bring forth that element. I'm testing things out, right? I'm testing things in my environment, trying to see how do I move about this system. I don't really have a real body, so things are different. How do I move with intention and thought instead of physically trying to push myself one way or the other? I got the understanding that trying to go up would have been more difficult for me, not because moving up was difficult itself, but it was difficult for my brain to convince myself that it would have been easier. So that was a limiting perception within me, but I recognized it. And I said, you know what? I want to stay in this experience. So I'm going to follow the path of ease. So I went 2 canisters over and then I let myself fall down. And I had a sense of knowing that I wasn't going to crash into anywhere because I didn't have a real physical body. So I allow myself to fall and I gracefully come out of the tube system, and I find myself in a house. But I know that this house is not in my reality. This is either in a completely different world or in a parallel Earth. I find myself in this house and I walk out the front door. There's a gravel parking lot. There's a couple of cars parked in it. There's a warehouse down on the left-hand side. And I get the sense that there are many people here. I just can't see them. And I'm walking around and I get the sense that, okay, I should be looking for things that I can use. I'm about to enter some sort of a scenario where I am either going to need to defend myself or I'm going to need some sort of a tool or a piece to help me take action. I approach one of the vehicles, and as I do it, I get the sense that this is my vehicle, not my car, my vehicle. And it seems very important that I use that verbiage. It's using the imagery of a car to get that concept across to me, right? The doors open. And I believe throughout this whole dream, it's not actually I'm finding myself in another place with a house and a car. I believe that my brain is using those images to convey the concepts of what that means. But this might even be an alien experience. This might be something totally extraterrestrial that if I were to encounter it, I wouldn't know what to do at all. And I would probably shake myself out of that experience, out of that dream. I'd wake up and not be able to complete it. So my brain is almost overlaying the information, the energetic signature of these objects, of these concepts, with the imagery from my world, from my reality, to help make it a little easier for me to process and stay in the experience so that I can bring this information forward. So I approach my vehicle and the doors just open as I approach it. There's no need to unlock it or anything. And nobody, like, they move of their own accord. They can sense my presence and my vehicle opens for me. And I find a backpack in the trunk. I open the backpack, there's clothing, there's money. I'm looking for a couple of other things, like, okay, these are tools that I might be able to use. And then all of a sudden, boom, all of the people, all of the beings, all of the energies are around me and I can see them. And I've been thrown into some sort of a scenario and coming out, like talking to you here on the other side, I can't determine whether it was a scenario that I was actually in and I was just observing this group of people. We were a part of a team and I was just, maybe the newest member helping out, or if this was a simulation, like, okay, this is what we would do if we found ourselves in this scenario. We're just running through the motions sort of thing. I can't quite determine which element that was. Anyways, in the dream, I have a full awareness of what is going on and it is intense and it has this sense of profoundness. And I am so excited to remember all of this and bring it forward. But for the life of me, when I woke up, I couldn't remember what we were doing. and this is the part that is still a little, I'm just like, I was so close. I had it right there, like it was almost there. At this point, I'm like, okay, we are here in this scenario. We finish up the scenario and all of us return to the house. We then go through a debrief. So like we were a team on a mission, we then debrief the mission. This is what we walked through. This is what we did right. This is what we could do better. I still can't tell if it was a simulation or if we were actually in that scenario. And then we get to the part where I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been so fascinating. And the people in this group then turn to me and they recognize me. And they know who I am. And they're so excited to see me again. They're so excited that I'm here. And it's almost like I've started at the bottom again, but I will quickly be able to learn my way forward, right? I'll quickly be able to relearn the content. There's no shame being at the bottom, right? This is just, oh my God, you found your way here again in another existence. This is so exciting. We're so glad to see you again, right? And I'm doing this work with them in the dream space. Then I talk to them and I'm like, well, this is really exciting. I'm going to remember this and I'm going to find you when I wake up. Or I am going to share this and we will find each other. So if you are one of those people who feels like you have had this experience, let me know. But they tell me, well, we never remember our dreams. And I say, oh, well, I definitely will. Like, I know I am going to remember at least part of this dream. Everyone's very excited that I'm going to remember this. And then I wake up and I can only remember part of it. But the main part of this dream that was so fascinating was not only seeing some of the work that I'm doing in the dream space, right? I'm meeting up with groups of people. I may or may not choose to engage with them and move forward and be a part of that group, but I'm coming into contact with beings that I have worked with before. I'm also traveling via the light tube system. That is the big takeaway for today. Holy shit, was that amazing to see. And I hope that you can have some sort of visual or use and engage your imagination as you're thinking about that, because it was so profound and impactful to me. And it could take me anywhere I wanted to go, And anybody can use the light tube system. So this is a note to you, dear listener, that if you find yourself in a meditation, if you find yourself in a dream, you can access the light tube system. I would also put a caveat in here, though, that the night that I had this dream, I set up significant wards around my bedroom. I don't normally go through my full ritual set, but I felt called to do so that evening. So that means that I really set a circle of my energy. That circle is protected in my bedroom. I clear anything negative out, and I call anything in that is beneficial to me. So for me, that usually looks like I call upon my guides, my angels, my ancestors, all beings who are here for my highest good and the highest good of the universe, to come down into this space to support me within my dreams, to support me and help me remember. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's how I call them in. So I would just make that caveat. So if you're diving into a meditation, before you access the light tube system, do so in a way that really sets you up for success, in a way that is supportive, in a way that is safe. Make sure that you're being safe with this, safe with your energy and things like that. Other than that, that is my life recently. It has been a hot minute since I have posted another episode. This is a podcast where I am not holding myself accountable to any particular schedule. I am sharing meaningful information in the time that feels meaningful to share it. So going forward, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Follow me if you want to. And I will see you in the next episode. Love ya. Bye.